how do we get the quality? How do we maintain quality with quality? Or in other words, how do we find engagement at scale? And, you know, to the point Brian just made on that previous slide about how emails this, you know, touch point for all these cross-channel initiatives, we really see that as being the reason why acquisition has come back to the forefront for so many of our clients in 2021. There's just this immense company-wide push to acquire more first-party data, to own more first-party data of the customers that you want to market to. And the tip of the spear there is email. That's the crucial data point all of our clients are looking for, and they want to be able to email market to them effectively, but they also want to use it as a key to unlock all these other channels as well. So to double back on like our number one best practice tip for any sort of paid email acquisition campaign is to focus on early engagers. The easiest first step here is to establish some sort of early engager KPI. It sounds obvious, but virtually all of our clients that we do acquisition work for on the email side have tried paid email acquisition in the past, and it's failed in some capacity. Either it didn't achieve the volume because the cost was prohibitive, or in the more likely scenario, it achieved the volume, but it didn't achieve the quality. They couldn't maintain open rates, click rates, retention rates, or worst case scenario, they had deliverability issues. And generally speaking, there's a really simple first step filter that they haven't put in place with paid acquisition, which is establish an early engagement KPI, a no nonsense one. It can be very simple that if the sources that you're paying for email subscribers from aren't hitting, you pause and you stop. The most common KPI is some sort of unique opener rate during the welcome series. You know, obviously, whether or not someone opens one of your email addresses is not the perfect indication of their LTV over the next 6 years, but it's much, much better than nothing. Nothing is you go out and you pay for an email and you buy 1 million of them and you just wait 6 years. The best, acquisition should be an evergreen channel that's always on, and just, it's like the stone in the river that the optimizations are just slowly molding over time. And starting with that starting with that unique opener rate, basically it allows you to say, okay, we have a source that's on, we're getting a couple hundred subscribers from them. They're at an 8% unique opener rate. We know that our threshold is 22% open rate. That source needs to pause now, and do it when you're in a couple hundred before you get to tens of thousands, because there's no shortage of sourcing out there that can help you get volume. So set strict quality standards. You can always change that KPI over time. The third thing here, be prepared to optimize as soon as day one. That's what I was just referencing. So, a lot of our clients in the past, when they've had failed forays into email acquisition, their story has been that they've bought a ton of leads, they waited a while, and the quality wasn't good, so they assumed the channel didn't work. But any paid email acquisition campaign is like any other marketing campaign you're running. It's a living, breathing campaign that needs to be actively managed day to day. A lot of our clients don't have the bandwidth or the skill set internally, and that's why where DMI is adding the most value from an acquisition standpoint is as an agency that can manage those programs outsourced and leverage our expertise to your acquisition initiatives. But it's absolutely essential. You really can't forget about it for even a few days. You need to constantly be making sure that the subscribers that are coming in are meeting your engagement standards. The fourth one here, this is a big thing we impress upon our clients, especially when they're hungry, their appetite's bigger than their stomach, which is to never acquire more subscribers than you can without affecting your engagement KPI. So you put that engagement KPI in place to protect downstream email engagement and overall deliverability. A lot of our clients, we've had just as many clients who test small, see that it works small, and then say, okay, if this worked at 10 a day, let's buy 1 million tomorrow so that we can actually hit our database goal now that we've tested. That's just as foolish of a step that we've seen really backfire for our clients. So you really need to be working with a partner or have a team internally that can help you assess, okay, this is working. What can we scale to reasonably, and at what rate can we scale our acquisition so that we're not affecting our engagement KPIs, or worst case scenario, our deliverability. So just because something works small, don't assume it's going to work big. Take incremental steps to get big. And really, again, you got to trust the people you're working with to help you figure out if the volume is going to be able to sustain the quality. And the last thing here is always have an idea when you're doing paid acquisition, have mechanisms in place to put non-engagers into like a re-engagement bucket, or to pull them out of regular sends. Another big landmine we see clients step on when they try paid email acquisition is they get a lot of good subscribers, but they get a few bad subscribers, and they treat them all the same. So if someone comes in through a paid channel and doesn't open an email within the first month, there's no need to be hitting them with your daily sends beyond 30, 60, 90 days, or your weekly sends. To Brian's point before, they're behaving differently. What they told you during opt-in didn't turn out to be true as you were marketing to them, so believe their behavior from your emails. If they're not opening your emails, don't send them emails more often. It's going to pull down your overall open rate. Again, worst case scenario could hurt deliverability. So don't let the bad eggs get in the way of what could be an otherwise successful channel. So most of our clients have a mechanism in place where, like, if a subscriber hasn't opened an email from a paid channel hasn't opened an email by the end of day 30 or day 60 or day 90, they're pulling them out. They're putting into some sort of reactivation bucket, and it's still consumer data that they own. It fuels other marketing channels. They use it for social targeting and stuff like that. So there's still a ton of value they get from that, but they don't want them to get in the way of them being able to email market effectively.
Thanks. And so, yeah, I think one big part of this, obviously the title of the slide and the recommendation is to have proper validation in place, but I think even to back it up a step, if you're looking to build a really high quality email list that helps propel your business forward, the first step is really just focusing on email address quality. And I know sometimes when people hear that phrase, they think, how much is it going to cost? And there is the possibility that, most high volume senders and most people who are sending emails do need a paid solution in place. But I think it really starts with having a quality standard, defining to your specific organization what is and what isn't a quality email address, and then holding every source, every collection point to that standard, whether it's your website, your call center, your point of sale terminals, lead generation vendors, anywhere. I think that's one place where folks can go wrong. They apply one standard to internal data and another or no standard to external data, or lists that they acquired, or lists that have been passed on from generation to generation. And the reason why focusing on quality is so important, I think first and foremost, is because bad email data costs you money and gets you into trouble. And there's a lot of different ways how that happens. Some of them are more or less severe than others. Just bouncing email addresses, they're going to mess up your metrics. You're going to waste money with your ESP or your automation provider, who likely charges you on a volume basis. You get into bouncing email addresses, and you're not able to honor your commitment or your promise to customers. So someone signs up, they expect a newsletter, they expect receipts, they expect deals and offers, and you're not giving them to them. That's definitely going to be a problem. There's, another level of bad addresses, like spam traps, which if you hit a bad one or hit a number of them, can lead to blocking and blacklisting, where you just can't deploy any emails at all. Never a good thing. Never a good thing during the climate that we're in, and then even worse around the holidays. We see it happen, if not every year, very frequently during the holidays, where someone has a spam trap issue and they're unable to reach their customers via email for some period of time. And as I mentioned before, the reason why all of this is a problem is because acquisition sources are flawed. Again, it doesn't really matter if it's through your website, it's in your stores, it's in your call centers. There's a lot of human error that plays a role, and there's fat finger mistakes, there's typos, transpositions. There's just a lot of things that can go wrong in the process of collecting an email address and getting it into your database. It seems really simple, but it's not necessarily. So that ties into the need to have proper validation in place. And also there are free and low cost things you can do to gauge the quality of your list. We have a free tool called Free List Check. You can just put a segment in, you can put a list of up to, I think, 5 million records in, and it will give you kind of high level findings of, hey, you have this many bounces, this many spam traps, these high value categories that you need to be aware of, that then might drive you to go upstream with a vendor and iron out some of those problems. And by doing that, businesses see major results. One thing that we see to be supremely effective is cleaning and correcting in real time. That way, none of the toxic bad stuff ever makes its way into your database. We have a bullet here about suggested corrections, excellent in real time. So you're never entering into a situation with a customer where you're not able to honor that commitment. If I put in a bad undeliverable email address, it's going to prompt me in real time, whether it's on the website or in the store, kind of like a did you mean scenario, where then I can re-input my correct email address and that transaction is made. Like I said, it's going to keep the real bad stuff out of your database. No need to worry about, or less need to worry about spam traps and other stuff that can really wreak havoc on your campaigns. And I think at the end of the day, it's not the only factor, but it's a major factor in optimal inbox placement. So you're going to deliver more of your email campaigns to the inbox, and as a result, you're going to generate more of those opens, clicks, engagement, and revenues that you need to propel your business forward.
Just a real quick to piggyback that, Keith, the point about acquisition there is incredible. I mean, our client acquisition campaigns, we use fresh address for validation on new subscribers from the paid vendors we get there. And it's invaluable because, like, even if you're weeding out a very small percentage, to Keith's point, it only takes one or two of the really, really troublesome scenarios to kill an otherwise good lead source. I would say we probably avert on our acquisition campaigns more false negatives than false positives by having having fresh address in place, because we have sources that might be able to yield a 30, 40, 50% open rate or whatever it is, index way above average for our clients. But if their toxic email rate is even a little bit above the index, they're going to get paused. So it helps us avoid, again, like those false positive scenarios where we might pause an otherwise good lead vendor just because we didn't have basic validation in place.
Makes sense. And this is just a real high value look at how our hygiene, validation, correction process works. We talk about it in terms of check, correct, protect. So just making sure first and foremost that the email address is valid and able to accept email. It's a real email address. The corrections, as I talked about, we've got a patent on spell check technology that can correct, up to 7 errors in a single email address. So a lot of options for fixing those malformed, mistyped email addresses and not missing out on that opportunity. Like I was talking about before, I think now more than ever before, it's imperative that we're able to connect with our customers via email, and you wouldn't want to miss out on that opportunity by capturing an address that may be deliverable, but just that doesn't correspond to your target. I know for me, I shop at multiple brands. I buy a lot of outdoor gear, and if I go, there are two retailers that I have in mind that I shop at frequently, and if one can capture my email address correctly and the other can't, I'm going to buy from the one that's selling me Black Friday deals based on things that I've purchased in the past and whatnot. So definitely a really important consideration. And then that third protect step, that's one thing that we feel that we do better than anybody else. We've got a team, I'd like to call them like the CSI team for email. Their sole job is just IDing and flagging new spam traps and spam trap domains. And that's a big step towards not having to worry about those problems.
Awesome. And then, to tie it back in there, that kind of like helps like crystallize what we recommend as like the phases of acquisition for paid acquisition. That is, the first step is to do some sort of, just general lead acquisition pilot phase. Set aside a set budget that you're comfortable testing with. It should be limited. It shouldn't be a budget that allows you to hit your database growth goal for the year, but something that's like gives you meaningful scale, a meaningful sample size to trust the results, and acquire some subscribers from some lead vendors. Then quickly, as soon as day one, but certainly within a week or two, start to optimize the email engagement results you're seeing within your database, and tie it back to the lead sources, and use this as like a learning to figure out, does this channel pass the basic proof of concept? Like, can we hit our early engager KPIs? Are people staying on the file? Are they not unsubscribing at a crazy rate? And make sure that there is sourcing within the acquisition pilot you did, that after optimization, it either is at goal or you can see your way to getting to goal. And then you want to gradually move to the scale phase. And again, this is probably the most important step, and the one that we see clients fall down on most often, a lot of times just because they kind of give up on the channel because it's failed so many times. But this is where you're starting to figure out, okay, this worked at 100 a day or 5,000 a day during our test scenario, but to get to our growth goal of 10 million new subscribers in 2020, we obviously need to ramp up a lot more than that. So you got to come up with like a very good, deliberate custom growth plan based on how that acquisition and optimization pilot went. For a lot of our clients, it's how do we go from 10,000 during the pilot to maybe like doubling it in month 2 and then tripling it in month 3. In some cases, we'll even go, have day by day send growth trajectories that we're working within from an acquisition standpoint. And the key here is just to never push the envelope too far too soon, because it's just another area where you might blow up an otherwise effective lead solution because you just tried to do too much too soon. And these phases, this philosophy we apply to all of our clients' paid acquisition initiatives. So, we would apply this to a Facebook lead ads campaign, a co-registration initiative, a sweepstakes. On the B2B side, we have clients who leverage like LinkedIn to drive to lead forms, and there's a million different ways that they can fragment the sourcing that's coming into these lead forms. And we would always recommend following these processes. Never skip to step 3.